Well, I've always been interested in the future. I'm not sure I could be called a futurologist, but it's an interest that I've had, and this book is very definitely about the future. So the areas of interest that I already had, but decided to spend more time on, were renewable energy and sustainability, the environment things in general, but with a particular focus on the renewable side, and artificial intelligence, which is, I think, what I would have been working on had I still been working. My background has always been introducing change to businesses, and with a focus on putting in computer systems, but usually being on the client's side of putting in computer systems as opposed to the software company's side. So making sure that the client got what they actually needed as opposed to the standard products that the software company would be producing. So the next thing is the Schengen Information System, SIS2, and what that was, for anyone who doesn't already know, that was, or is, a system that conveyed information about people of concern to the legal authorities, the legal enforcement authorities, with the people's name, car registration numbers, biometrics, if they had them, which of course is relatively easy if they've been in prison previously. And it's shared between 29 different countries across Europe. And when I was working on it, we were still part of it. And my understanding, because I saw various presentations and people coming in and talking on the subject generally, is that the police in this country used it rather heavily, probably more so than many other countries. And one of the valuable things was the fact that if say groups of criminals, a large organisation of criminals, they'd send somebody into this country, then we would be informed that they were coming into this country, and it was possible to actually track their progress using the ANPR cameras and such like, and get them where the crimes were or where they were meeting more important people up the chain, and Gove switched it off. And he was quite pleased at being able to switch it off, which was rather strange from a party that always said that they were against criminality. I didn't sort of relate. But I didn't spend very long working on that system, but I was at a generally unknown location in London that I spent some time, so I got the idea of what kind of data was actually going through. So it was all of those things I mentioned before, plus what weapons they might be carrying, or any other illicit things. So, as I say, that Gove was very happy to switch it off. Well, it's European, isn't it? Oh, we can't possibly have that sort of thing. And I was appalled at somebody called Ed Davey on the radio this evening, who mentioned that the boat crossings that are always in the news, that was made much more easy by us leaving the European Union, but at no point did he mention SIS2, which I thought was somewhat lacking on his part, because it was given a wide ability to answer questions, and just never got a mention on the radio this evening. So I found that rather strange. And so the data sharing, though, it was something that we were all doing together, the whole of Europe, not just the EU, but neighbouring countries as well. And so it's quite fascinating working on that piece of work, to actually hear people coming in, and also where that data went off to was quite fascinating as well. So yes, one needed a certain level of security, government security, past to get through that. So, artificial intelligence, which is the main part of this, but it relates, because there's, one could imagine that AI with the SIS2 would be extremely powerful as a combination. So most people seem to be under the impression that AI only turned up 3 years ago with ChatGPT, whereas in fact they had a very long history going back to Alan Turing, the codebreaker, and not specifically him, but that gives you an idea of how long the subject's been under consideration. And I remember at school using some of the things that he came up with. And so the big thing that most people don't realise is that it's been in everyday life for many years now. That such as satellite navigation and the traffic information and the alternative routes that one might take in real-time information, that is all backed up by artificial intelligence. With the likes of Netflix and social media, you get YouTube, you get feeds automated according to your personal preferences, and that's all AI generated, or machine learning as part of all of that. And in terms of what's happening now, that's not on a general public user basis, is healthcare and science. I can do a whole talk on the healthcare side, because I'm part of a national group of people doing presentations. The great significance and the reason why I want to talk to people about artificial intelligence is that it's going to have a very disruptive effect at basically everything. We've had situations in the past with railways and the internet where things have massively changed for everyone, and this applies to things like cars. The difference that people have been able to buy cars has made. And as I saw a couple of days ago on YouTube, one of the big changes was tractors, which hadn't occurred to me previously. But there's an awful lot of horses put out of, cattle, various forms of animal that were pulling ploughs along. And this YouTube video was showing that first of all they compared the tractor to one animal pulling along the plough, and then it got to two. It was better than two pulling along the plough, and when it got to three, that it was quite obvious to everyone that tractors definitely were the future. No, so that was one I didn't know before. But railways is something that I'm particularly interested in. So now we're going over to how AI can fit into our own daily lives. So chatbots have actually been around a while. And I was talking to someone a couple of days ago that said, this one that I was using was really bad. Sort of didn't understand anything I was saying. And I had to explain to him that was the old generation of chatbot, and Alexa being another example, where if you didn't use exactly the word it was expecting, then it didn't understand, and that was it. Whereas what I'm talking about is the new ones, the AI chatbots, and with the example of Alexa, that's the new version that's coming out now. you probably have to pay for that one, but it's a completely different level of communication. So there are quite a number of these AI chatbots. There's ChatGPT, which is the one that's most famous. There's Gemini, Claude, Perplexity, and there's quite a list of them anyway. And each of them does a free version. So if you don't want to pay out money, like I don't want to pay out money, so I use the free version. But the problem with the free version is that there are limitations to it, and I'll get to that in a moment, I think. Now, I use these chatbots to organise various things with me. I have a conversation, which I'll explain in a couple of minutes, which is, I use them, for example, the first thing I needed was when I'm going to take somebody to a hospital, because the way I get funded is by distance, purely distance, regardless of the time that I spend on site. And the time I spend on site is why I've got my mobile library in the bag over there, with all my books to read while I'm waiting. But so I need to be able to calculate, first of all, what time to leave home to get to the client's home to pick them up. Then, because what I receive is an email from the charity's computer system that says where we're to go, what time the medical appointment is, what time the client's expecting me to pick them up. So I've got to work out what time to leave home and then calculate the distance for all 4 legs of the journey. And at the moment I've got 2 different AI chatbots doing different parts of the job. The one looks at my calendar and sees if I'm available, but also as I share the car with my wife, it's got to check on the car's availability as well. So it's a pretty complicated system that I live with, and it was getting a real pain having to do every calculation first. So using these 2 chatbots, different ones, they do different parts of the job, but I'm still working on automating even that to improve it. But that's the big one I needed. But also I've got solar panels and battery at home. And okay, so we paid out all this money for this equipment, the system, and the battery management system that comes with it. But my question is, well, how can I get the best value out of that? So this is an ongoing conversation with the chatbot, and between us we work out what's the best in terms of the financial reward, because I'm selling electricity as well as buying it. And then we get different situations, like sometimes we go on holiday. So, okay, but it's the house's job to earn us money while we're away, because we're not using the electricity, we're not there, but it can be set up to sell electricity back to the grid at certain times. And then, because we're an octopus for our electricity, they have arrangements where there's with the grid controller, the NSO, which operates the demand-driven setup, it can say when's going to be the good price to export electricity, or when there's a shortage, when not to use electricity. And so we get these notifications randomly. Could be the day before or the same afternoon or something, that says there's this opportunity here. So yes, we want to make the most of it financially, but also the octopus one, because it relates directly to what's happening on the grid, unlike some of the competitors, we're actually helping a whole grid at the same time, the locality, our locality, and the grid nationally. Some of the competitors just do a simplistic system like, oh, free electricity every Sunday. So we're in a very different situation with the national grid, in that it was designed, the whole setup was designed for a small number of very large generators, coal-fired or whatever. What we have now is hundreds of thousands or whatever of individual sites generating electricity, and that's a completely different ball game. Why the grid has got to be totally redone to cope with that. One of the interesting things, in Germany it's very common now for people to have what's known as balcony solar, which is putting a solar panel on the balcony of a flat, and you can run that, use your electricity, the generated electricity yourself, but you just plug it into the mains and it can generate electricity to the rest of your area. Now currently that's not permitted in this country, but apparently it's under consideration now, because, as I said, everything has been designed for the old way of doing things, and so we've all got to, the whole grid system has now got a huge transformation to be making. So we're now going on to the practicalities. So, as I said, the AI chatbots, the way to work with them is a discussion. So whatever you're doing, instead of just asking a simple question or just a few words, you actually write out what it is you're looking for, and this is everything that you write is called a prompt, and you can do it in stages. That's absolutely fine. But you start off by explaining what it is you're looking for, and now the background is that these systems have been taught, in quotes, basically everything that they can suck out of the internet. So there's huge quantity, but if you want the best stuff to help answer your question or your problem that you've got, then the idea is to cut it off and just tell it to get from, you are an expert in whatever it is, or no, you're a professor in, if you want to go to that kind of level, and that counts out the other 99.9% of all the stuff that's there, and just concentrates on the top quality stuff, if that's what you need. So coming back to the prompts, so the first one, these are the ones that I personally use. There's lots of people, I think it's quietened down now, but there are lots of YouTube videos coming out about, oh, you should go through these 6 prompts every time, or these 7 or whatever. But the ones that I find useful, for example, if you're writing a piece to be publicised, publication, then the context of who it's for, so who the audience is for, is important. To the different types of audiences, business audience or groups of casual people, whatever, that you're writing a newsletter for, whatever. Clarification of the situation, what it is you're looking for and why. I tend to ask very often, I say to the AI chatbot, do you have any suggestions? And might come up with something I hadn't thought about. That I find very useful. One that I hadn't realised that ChatGPT actually remembers things that I'd asked previously. And I thought, oh, why is it coming up with 3 options? And so I asked it, looked into the system, and oh yes, sometime in the past I asked it to give 3 options, and so it thought that that's what I wanted to do, which it often is. quite very often I'm interested in having alternative options. Now there's another one called Notebook LM from Google, and that's very different in that you find the information yourself and put it into Notebook LM, so it doesn't have the problem that some of the others do where with what's known as hallucinations, where it will invent something, and the standard one is the legal person that accidentally comes up with a court case that never existed because the chatbot's invented it. That's being worked on to reduce that sort of problem. Those are things that might happen with regular chatbots, but Notebook LM is where you put things in yourself, and you can have a total of 100 totally different subjects that are covered in your collection, up to 100, but any one of them can have 50 different things in it, and that can be web pages or YouTube videos, various sorts of things that you can pile in, and I can't remember how many I've actually got, but it's a rather large number, I must say. So the really big thing to get across is that the AI is advancing rapidly. It's not, the change is not on a small basis continuing gradually, but it's like when, say, electricity started being put out so it could go to homes. And this is where the Women's Electrical Association was a big thing, that they would have, they'd have publicity, and I can show you a picture if I can. I think it's page 97 of the book I've got here, shows you one of their pages that they come up with, saying, it makes like housewives' work much easier. This was exactly 100 years ago, by the way. That all these different things that you can have in the house, and for the cooker, because people had always called their cookers a range, so you have the electric range, and vacuum cleaners and various other things that you could reduce the amount of housework you have to do. And I can show you that afterwards. But so, in terms of the amount, the speed of change and how much it impacts the public, you can see we've been around this quite a number of times before, but this is a really big one that we're talking about now. And we've had situations recently in the last sort of 6 months, a year, whatever, of companies where they've said, oh, we've got AI now, we don't need all these people, humans, to do this task. One of the famous ones is the Klarna system. I don't know if you've heard of this company, where they do what we could have called on the Never Never. Yes. But it's actually at the point of sale where you're buying a product in a store, and it will say, would you like to split this over 10 payments or something, straight away at that moment. And that company thought, oh, we could automate huge amounts of this, and now it's, perhaps we shouldn't have got rid of those 7,000 people after all. And no, we don't need as many as we had before, but I think it would be useful to have a few people, some people. And that then brings us on to where the experience of the people, the workers, actually has a great impact, because a great advantage, because the AI systems, when you start talking to them, they know nothing about the context of what it is you're doing or what you need. And unfortunately for graduates, it's rather like their situation, that an experienced person that's worked in the industry for some time knows what you're really trying to achieve whereas the new person doesn't know the business or what the industry is trying to achieve, and so will sort of innocently do what they think is the correct thing, and that's where the experienced person can actually have the advantage of explaining, no, you're on the wrong track here. What we need, because this is our situation, well, it's a parallel. The AI chatbots are in the same situation. They're very clever, they can do things incredibly fast, but they just don't have the ideas. So that's why I put on my previous slide that one of the first things you do is give it the context that you're working in, because it doesn't know. And the problem that graduates are now having is that a lot of companies have stopped taking on graduates, because if they've got an experienced person with access to an AI system, that can replace the graduate a lot cheaper. So we've got, it's the so-called white-collar jobs that are impacted this time, whereas in the past it was often people that did things manual tasks, whereas now it's made. This is where it is different from the past, because it's the people sitting in offices at computers that are most likely affected, rather than people that are doing manual things. So there's a whole debate on which kind of industry or what kind of work is, in quotes, safest for the future. So then we come on to how different countries regulate the AI systems. And we have the European regulation, the AI Act, to give it its longer term. And that is working on particular aspects of things that definitely need to be made safe. And a short example is fairness in jobs, fairness in voting, and financial things, which I think would include insurance in that. So I think that the term would be guardrails that are put around for countries that are in the European Union. But of course there is a major country that's not part of the European Union, and I think you've already guessed which country I'm referring to. We have our own approach. Now I think that's the next one. So yeah, that's all about trust and the ethics. So we now have this country where what we have is Peter Kyle, who was the Science and Technology Minister, and he seems pretty up on AI when I've listened to him on being interviewed on podcasts. He's really there, he actually knows something about the subject, which for a government minister, we won't say any more about government ministers in that respect, but in general. But his approach is that sort of promoting AI as being a big thing. That's what I heard last week in a podcast. And so he's got this concept of sandbox, which is not unusual in the IT industry, where you test out things in a safe environment, not connected to the real world. And that's a way of handling it. But listening to what he was saying, that there wouldn't be the sort of restrictions that the European Union is talking about, that the main objective is just to make this sort of number one or number two AI country in the world, regardless of the actual impact. And so the point here is that are the public going to trust this, of what the government's actually doing? So the other character that also was interviewed this week that I heard was somebody called Nick Clegg, if you've ever heard of him. And he's making the point that we ought to be sort of thinking more about it. What's happened now, in Dick Clegg's own words, is that we are now a vassal state of America in regards to artificial intelligence. So that's where the government has placed us. And he, of course, has got a very good viewpoint, having worked for Meta, I think it is, for quite a number of years as their international relations person. So I think Nick Clegg probably knows what he's talking about. This is the summary of the whole thing here, is that collaboration is important, security to science. No, it's all driving progress generally and affecting everyone. Even if you're not even looking at AI, it's going to affect you even more than it is at the moment. And to repeat yet again, because it's so important, that the change is accelerating. And it isn't just sort of continuing up slowly. The speed that ChatGPT has been taken on board by the populations around the world generally isn't going up linear, it's a straight line. It's going exponentially, big time. So trying to ignore it is not an option.